I'm a bit of a comedian.
I love that. Make me laugh, girl. I need more laughter these days. All right, you guys, let's see the intro to my friend Michelle. If you were watching that and you saw the imagery in that last book, Shh, Don't Tell, author Michelle Knight is in the house. And I feel like we're about to go into something
Guys.
rich because I have been
Yes.
in that space of being shushed myself, and
Mhm.
to have an ability now, even as we were praying prior to coming on here, to vocalize as God's daughters that we have that birthright to say, no, we don't have to remain silent in him. And this is an opportunity for us to testify and proclaim his love and what he does, which is frees us. He frees us from that place of silence. And so you guys are about to tune in to something great. I don't even know what I'm really in store for, but she also told me she's quite the comedian. So it's going to be a high-low. So just be ready for the experience. Michelle, thanks for coming.
Thank you guys for having me. I am so blessed to be here. Man, I'm so excited to be here. Not many platforms would like to even discuss this topic. So it's hard to even fathom the thought of being on this platform. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Um, to dive into this book,
Yes.
what does the cover tell you, first of all?
Oh, for me, I see sexual sin that has occurred. I
Yes.
see a scared, fearful, silenced child, specifically a girl, which that's where I see myself in that space. I see hope. I think, were people pinky
Pinky
promising
promise.
inside of
Mhm,
it? I mean, it was
mhm,
such a flash of an image, and I
mhm,
was like, whoa, what? There it is. Oh, she's beautiful.
mhm,
Yeah, and I say girl, but I also see woman inside of that
mhm,
image. There's really a beauty of seeing youthfulness, but that she
mhm,
also is
mhm,
the silenced woman still. So I know many women that I've had the pleasure of walking out experiences in our women's retreats.
mhm.
One year, Michelle, I had unknowingly 12 out of 12 who had been sexually abused. Zero idea. Some of them shared for the very first time, and they're well into their 40s and 50s.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so I know that this is a topic that needs to be talked about. And I relish in the fact that the Lord has given us a place to do so today.
So, if you don't mind, I would like to share the dedication.
Yes,
Most
please.
people, when they read at least the dedication, they break out in tears.
Mm,
So, I'm gonna read that first.
yeah.
And it says, "In life, we encounter good and bad people. When you are young, it's fun to keep secrets with friends, unless it's a secret that may hurt someone's feelings or cause bodily harm. This book is dedicated to all young girls and boys, young ladies and men who have been hurt and told to keep it a secret. Those who have been touched inappropriately without permission and afraid to say something. It's time. Find someone you trust and spill the beans. It is never okay to be touched inappropriately. If they told you they would hurt you or your family, if you told, tell anyone. If they told you that no one would believe you, tell anyway. You are a survivor. You are not alone." And when a lot of people read that, mainly adults,
Yeah.
because they have had that thing happen to them as an adult, they immediately resonate with the book. And some of them, they just start crying because they don't want to have that conversation with their child. They're
Yeah.
praying that that doesn't happen to their child. So with this book, it doesn't teach about the predators on the outside. It's mainly conveying about the predators on the inside of the family, the
Mm-hmm.
cousins, the aunts, the uncles, the stepbrothers, even sometimes the dad. And so when you read this book, it talks about a character named Riley. And Riley loved her stepbrother. Riley would have never in a million years have thought that this can happen to her, especially with somebody her mom entrusted her with. But because it happened, now she has fear of everything. A lot of people don't understand that when something happens when they're younger, they just want to call the child bad or they're just acting out. But something happened to that child, and it could be male or female. Something happened. And so when you ask, why are you acting out? It may come out that something actually did
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So to surprise you, I am actually the character in this book.
Mm. Mm.
She had a better outcome than me, but it still happened. And I didn't tell anybody until my 40s
Wow.
because I wanted to teach my children about the predators within our family.
Wow, wow, that's incredible. And I think you're right on so many levels of like, because it's been such a silence thing, because there's been such shame around it, or the shame is really not given by people that love them. It's actually given by the enemy as a tool to keep them silenced, to keep them in that place of not enoughness.
Mhm,
And that leads into marriages, right? You being 40, these other women, it leads into them having children and being so petrified that something could happen to them. And so it's a whole nother level of helicopter mom, right? And it's a fear driven experience as a mother. Um,
mhm,
so I wildly resonate with all of that because I've been in the same exact shoes. And now having come out about this very soon, I think the benefit to it is that there are educational opportunities for us as parents, just as you did through this book, to
mhm,
educate. How do you say no? What is a, one of the pornographic pictures,
mhm,
that it was a book that I bought for my kiddos, but basically like what's a good picture versus a bad picture, and
mhm.
explaining that, especially in this digital age, having exposure to things that occur. So I want to know, because one, this is so needed, but two, yes, oh yes, look at the pictures, guys. If you're able to see this, it's just stunning. And processing through this, Michelle, when you
Mhm.
walked through this experience, and what was that silencing like, and how did that silencing affect other portions of your life?
So, with that happening to me, and I'm sure with a lot of other people, once your purity is taken,
Mhm.
it's like nothing else. You don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And so, because God gives you that purity,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that is your mind, body, and your spirit automatically belongs to Him. So, when your purity is taken, the most valuable thing of your body, you feel like nothing. And so when you within our, I'll say within the African American community, and I'm not sure how the dynamics hold with all other communities,
Yeah.
but within our community, what happens in the house stays in the house. And
Mhm.
I'm sure that happens within all
Mhm.
communities, but I know for sure within my family, whatever happens in the house stays in the house. So even if I told my mom that, my cousin was flirting with me or telling me how nice I look and how he would like to get in between my legs, my
Mhm.
mom wouldn't hear that because that was her favorite cousin. And she wouldn't think of
Right.
your cousin even saying such things to you because that's family.
Yep.
It is normally the family that is looking at you the most. Oh, sit on Uncle Jeff's lap. It's
Yeah.
okay to sit on his lap, but I don't want to sit on his lap. You
Mhm.
better sit on his lap. That's disrespectful when you don't sit on their
Mhm.
lap, you know. And so it
Mm.
led me to become this person that I didn't even know anymore.
Yeah.
And I became married at 16.
Wow.
So when I got married at 16, it was like, okay, I don't want to play anymore. Now I'm married to this 19-year-old.
Mhm.
Um, I ended up in two domestic violent relationships
Mm.
because I didn't love me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I thought God was mad with me because I done something wrong. I
Yeah.
thought because I didn't dress properly is why he probably took advantage of me. So it's a whole bunch of things that came about when this circumstance started from the beginning. And it takes a lot. So some kids, they either want to commit suicide because
Yeah.
they no longer love themselves, or they truly just act out and they become promiscuous,
For sure.
or they end up in relationships with people beating on them and they think it's acceptable. Um, it's just so many things, and thank God loved me enough to
Mhm.
where he brought me through this journey so I can have a test through a testimony to where I can teach and I can speak to other people who may be going through the same situations. So I love being able to speak to kids who have been through this trauma, or speaking to people who have been in domestic violent relationships, because I know one almost took my life.
Mhm.
um, Writing through these books helps me, or allows me the opportunity to teach them, because it happens every 8 seconds of the day, literally
Wow.
around the United States. And it's from 6 months old all the way up to 18.
Wow.
So you can't imagine just within this
Goodness.
hour how many kids across the US are being touched, taunted,
Mm,
molested, and raped.
goodness. Yeah, I didn't know that stat. I know a lot around the sex trafficking industry, and that is equally as insane because a lot of it does happen within the families. And culturally, I don't know that it's a variable. I think you're right in the fact that you are aware of what your culture does and how it is, but
Mhm,
it really, at least growing up, I think it's very different now. I think
mhm.
there's a lot more resources. I think the conversation around mental health, I think even exposure now is more of an available conversation versus when we were growing up, you and I, like our parents were like, shh, no, don't say
Yep.
that. That's inappropriate. Like it literally was just push it under the rug and keep on keeping on. And
Mhm.
so we then, that's what we habitually learned to do ourselves, which is why we could stand in front of the mirror, not knowing ourselves, not really loving ourselves, and just go on to the next.
Right.
That promiscuity conversation, I don't think people understand that taking promiscuity into a marriage doesn't make you less promiscuous just because you're in covenant love.
Right.
It
Right.
actually, it really taints intimacy. It
Mhm.
really taints your understanding of love. Like if you're not being touched, he must not love me. If I don't act or portray this sense of sexuality, then I'm not a good a wife, or I'm not fully a
Not
woman.
good at anything because the only thing I've done is allow somebody to take it. So
Yes.
that must be how it's supposed to be. Just
Right.
allow. I'm not supposed to have any feeling with it at
Right.
all. They're supposed to just get their feeling.
Yes.
And I'm supposed to just lay there as a wife and maybe have a baby or two.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's the feeling that I grew up with.
Yeah,
So
so wild.
sexually,
Yeah.
I didn't have a feeling for a very long time because okay, get on, do your business,
Yep.
and be
Yep.
done.
I checked that box. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and then
I
that
didn't
does
care.
lead to the domestic violence portion
Mhm,
because of course our feelings will surface.
mhm,
How
mhm.
they surface might not be in the traditional way, but it is
Right.
going to come out. And so now there's this like anger, or there's words, or
Mhm.
there's us coming out from a physical perspective and harming the other person.
And no
And
trust.
so yeah, oh my gosh,
So let's
completely.
not leave out having lack of trust.
Yes, yes. And having lack of trust on any relational dynamic, you guys, it's not just even marriage that we're talking about. It leads to personal friendships.
Mhm,
It definitely leads with any relationship of the opposite sex in hierarchy of any sort. There's like this
absolutely.
strength domineering experience that happens. And so I want people who are listening who have experienced this before to know that there is hope, right? That's the whole point. Michelle and I are here to experience and help you experience hope, not to relive or have a traumatic outcome of said scenario. But
Right.
how, Michelle, when you came to the revelation of, you know what, I'm no longer going to remain silent, and this is how I want to then move forward with this message. What was that process like in that time, like with you and Jesus?
It took me a minute because I thought God forever was mad with me. I
Yeah.
could not understand, or I could not even fathom why me. But I know a lot of pastors would always tell me, God gives his strongest soldiers the biggest battles. And I was like, I don't want them. I don't
Yeah.
want the battles. Then why you keep giving them to me? Why? I don't want them.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I can't fight no more. The depression that went along with it, I can't fight anymore. And so it got to a point where, because I'm prior military as well.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it got to a point where relationships were boring. And that's how I ended up in my second marriage. And that's the one that almost took my life,
Wow.
being bored. I said, okay, you're buying me a gift. You're not buying me a gift for Valentine's. Okay, but we don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
Relationships just became so nonchalant.
Right.
And so I eventually married the second person that I was with. And seeing red flags, knowing the red flags, I didn't have any self-worth because of the past relationships, coming from having being molested when I was young, being the black sheep of my family, for whatever reason. I'm the oldest child.
Mm.
So even I begged for counseling. Please let me see somebody. My mom, nothing's wrong with you. You're fine. You're perfectly fine. But up here, I was not. I
Mm.
was going through a lot of things mentally that had partaken, with people telling me, oh, if I can just get in between those thighs, which made me started wanting to cover up more. So
Right.
now my kids are like, Ma, you dress like a nun. No, I just like to be, covered up. I'm a blazer
Yeah.
girl.
Yes.
So they're like, girl, you can show them legs. And I was like, no, I can't show these legs. These legs for my hubby, kind of.
Yes.
And so I thought I would never have a good relationship again because I really just did not like men. Now, I wasn't going to women, but I just
Yeah.
nothing wrong with going to women. But that just not was my
Yeah.
cup of tea at that time. You know what I mean?
I got you.
And so, and I'm from New Orleans, you guys. So y'all have to that little twang sometimes come out every now and again. But it is just the fact that I had to have a coming to Jesus moment, and I kept asking God, "What do you have for me?" And so finally, my first book was God Don't Make Junk.
Mm.
That book came to me and it was a teachable moment for me because it came in my sleep. And when I tell people how this came, people look at me like, she's stupid. God didn't to her in her sleep like that. And so now everybody uses my story. So Jesus rose in 3 days. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I know God, come on. He rose in 3 days. So God is a God of sense of humor.
Yes, he is.
I was at my lowest.
Mhm.
Like I had worked for the VA, I've been military, just lost in my life because I had been through these relationships. My husband now he was my first boyfriend when I was 14.
Wow.
He asked me to marry him, and I said, "Man, you don't have no money. I can't marry you at no 14, kind of thing." And he was like, "I'm gonna get some money one day, and you're gonna be my wife." And I was like, "Boy, boo." And so I was just like, we not, yeah, we're not getting married, and here we
Oh
are,
my
14 years
gosh.
later, we're still married.
Wow.
So 14 must be our magic number. But
I
anywho,
love that.
so I'm thinking like, God, what is going on? Why are you showing me so many things? And he showed me so many, it's like a gift God
Yeah.
gives you, that women intuition. We,
Yes.
we all have it.
Yes.
Sometimes we listen to it, sometimes we
True.
don't.
Doesn't always go well when you don't, by the way.
Yeah, and God smack us, pap, pap, when you don't listen
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And so I went to sleep one night because I'm telling you, I was in like a deep, deep, deep depression.
Mhm.
And so I went to bed and God was like, wake up, I have something for you to write. And I was like, bruh, and this is how I talk to God, bruh. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm turning back over. I say I'm flipping like a pancake. I'm
Yeah.
flipping to my other side. And God is like, okay. So the next night, again, Jesus rose in 3 days. So the next night he came back and he said, get up. I have something. Because the Holy Spirit
Oh,
always comes
yeah.
like 3 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning.
that's the time, that's the
And
time.
that's the time. And so he came and he was like, get up. I have something for you to write. And I was like, bruh, it is like 3 something in the morning. And so he was like, okay, you're just not gonna be able to sleep tonight. And so of course
Mm.
I'm flipping like a flapjack over and over. I couldn't sleep. I'm tired. So the next night he came back, third time. Jesus rose, third day. And so he came back and he said, if you write this, I will give you the best sleep you ever wrote. So I'm
Mm.
like, bro. So I done pulled up my phone and I'm trying to look with the light, trying to write down, my eyes closed, trying to write down whatever it is that he told me to write. I had no idea. My husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, God won't let me
I
sleep.
gotta write this out.
Write it down. I don't know what it is.
Wow.
I'll see it in the morning. Wrote it down. And that became my book.
Wow.
And that was God Don't Make Junk. And that was for him to let me know I have something. I have plans for you. You're not junk. You don't need to be depressed. You don't need to have anxiety. I need you to forgive everybody that has done something to you because my slap is harder than yours.
Wow.
So let it go. And I
Wow.
was like, okay, God, so you want me to forgive the people who done almost took my life?
Yeah.
It's in the Bible because he
Yep.
forgave those who killed and
Yep.
stole, and man, God puts us under test. Don't
Yeah.
he?
Oh, yes, he does. And
Yes.
forgiveness is one of the keys to full
Ooh.
freedom. It 100%
Mm.
is.
It-
Repentance and forgiveness.
Boy, deep breath on that one. And so I wrote the book, and so that was my first test. And he was like, this is your test, this is your trial. I went through a company, and the company did me bad. And that
Mm,
was for him. He said, so now you know what it's like. We're gonna do this. And Shush Don't Tell was my next book.
so
And
good.
so I wrote that one, and he said, you're gonna write this one in faith because people need it.
Yeah.
And I was like, for real? He gave me both stories. He said, you're going to write your story, but you're going to give a better ending. And the reason you're going to give a better ending because we need more people to come forth. We need
Good.
them to start speaking up. We need our predators to stop living their best lives. We need our kids to start getting the help that they need. We need adults to start healing because if they don't heal, then they can't heal their children.
That's
They
right.
can't help their children.
All right.
And it's happening to males and females. And so I was like, okay, God, you sure you won't give me this battle? Because, man, you know how old I am? So I was like 40 when I wrote this. And I was like, man. And so my mom read it for the first time. And she
Wow.
was like, so this what happened to you?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah. And she was like, man, it happened to me too.
Wow.
And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? You could
Yeah,
have saved me some time. You could have
for
told me what to look out
sure.
for. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I was in a prayer session recently with a bunch of women, and they were talking about how our generation is the chain breaking generation.
Mhm, mhm,
And when you process that, right, it's like our parents and my mom as well, inclusive in that, my Nana as well, inclusive of that, like generations and generations and generations have lived in this silent season.
mhm,
And God isn't allowing for it anymore. And
mm-mm.
he is using our availability for us to say yes to him, for him to then proclaim through our voice
Right.
that we're not going to stand for it anymore. We are going to protect our children. We are going to be on the front lines watching, and we're going to be the whistleblowers, right?
Mhm,
In
absolutely.
the best way, because that whistle turns into a trumpet, and because we're praising at the same time, because we know freedom is possible.
Mhm,
And that's the beauty of being a messenger at large, is our
mhm.
messages don't often, right? A mess is only where a message comes from. Just so
Absolutely,
everyone is clear.
absolutely.
You might be like, "Oh, I have this great message." And I'm like, "Tell me the root of that message." Because really what I want to know is, where did that message get planted? Because if it got planted in a mess, which is where a seed gets planted, in the messy, dirty soil, the same
Mhm,
very place that the Lord grabbed us up and out of the dirt he formed man, that
mhm,
is how a messenger is cultivated, is out of a mess. And
mhm,
so every layer, domestic violence, worthiness, right? That first book about worthiness, lack of
mhm,
identity, we've already talked about here,
mhm,
sexuality, and what does that look like from a promiscuous perspective, but also sexual assault,
mhm.
and all of these layers. They're not pretty, but I can tell you, when you read Old to New Testament, they're
Mhm.
talking about this stuff all the
Go
time,
through the Bible.
all the time.
The Bible, if you have not read your Bible with
Yep.
most of the stories, when I first really started diving into my
Yeah.
Bible, I was like, she slept with her daddy to make her.
Yeah.
I was like, what the what? Nobody told me I couldn't sleep with my daddy. Oh my
It's
God. And so
wild.
when I try to talk to my girls, so me and my girls, we go back and forth with the Bible stories, but
So
of
good.
course, I have to put them in my
Yeah.
comedic. I'm gonna say
Comedic lens.
comedic way. So I'll tell them like with Jonah in the
Yep.
whale. And I said, so they had this dude named Jonah, and Jonah, he was one of God's favorite until he wasn't God's favorite because he was hard head. And so he was telling God, so you want me to go down the block and tell them folks down there that that you forget him after that and rob, stole, kill, this, that. God, I ain't finna do that. I'm just not finna do that. And so God was like, go do it. Look, bro, I'm not finna go do that. Y'all gotta forgive me. That's that New
It's
Orleans. I'm
so
sorry.
good.
Look, and so Jonah, he was hard headed. He went and did it. He came back. He was like, God, that's all I'm doing. I ain't doing nothing else for you. And so, of course, my girls, when I tell them stuff tell them like that, they're like, My, that ain't what really happened. That is what happened.
Yep.
You got it. That's how Jonah ended up in the well,
Yep.
and then he was like, I'm gonna chill in this well. Okay, but I'm tired of being in here, God. Okay, I give up. Come on, please take me out this well. And God took him out the well, and he sat there. God even allowed the flower to grow over him, but he still was sitting there being stubborn,
Yep.
you know. And so I wrote a book called The Book of Daniel for a Child's Eyes. And so
Mm.
my daughter, she read and she was like, "That's it? Mama, you stop right there. Like, that's it?" And she was like, "So you got to make a Bible story for every book in the Bible." I said, "God, I'll be writing for all my days. What is wrong? Do you not know all the stories in the
It's
Bible?"
so good.
So I try to convey life with
Yeah.
the Bible and tell them, God, our God is a God of sense of humor. He's a healer. He's our everything. But everything that happens in life, it goes back to the Bible. And I can't say I'm in the Bible. Michelle's name is not in the Bible, but something that I
Mhm.
went through is definitely in the Bible,
Yep.
which helps us get through what we have gone through as individuals. So forgiving,
Absolutely.
yeah, that was hard. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Forgive a man that almost took my life.
Yeah.
Forgave him. I can call, sit across the table and smile
Mhm.
and
Wow.
know that my God, my Father in heaven has
Mm.
already taken care of whatever he's going to do
I
for me.
love his laugh is harder than mine.
Yes. I
But,
mean,
I think they always say, and it's, like, maybe overrated, but when you really get down to it, it's so
mhm,
accurate, is that
mhm.
you don't forgive people for their sake, you forgive people for your sake
Yes.
because God tells you to do so. 7
Hmm.
times 77, and
Again.
forgiveness that is unforgiveness inside of your heart, it
Mhm,
actually is breeding ground for relational turmoil in
mhm,
every other relationship connected to it. And
mhm,
so I think that just having that sense, and sometimes for actions of my own, I had to
mhm,
forgive myself. And I
mhm,
think that's where a lot of people stop. It's easier for us to forgive things on the outside, even
mhm,
as tumultuous as a domestic violence situation or an abuser situation. But when it comes to forgiving ourselves, where we don't give ourselves the same kindness, we don't speak the same loving words over
mhm,
ourselves as we do others. That's why we have that perspective that we're
mhm,
just junk, right? And everybody else is worth something. They're worth loving, but not me. And so I love that you brought that. God don't make junk. Man, I love the imagery. Is it the
mhm.
same artist as the
Ye
first one?
Yes, I
Oh,
love my,
stunning.
illustrator. She's in Ghana.
Oh,
Her name
cool.
is Benny, and when I tell you she makes all of my illustrations come to life,
She
I
does.
absolutely
Oh, look at those
love
faces.
her. I love
Wow.
um,
Gorgeous.
so basically, God Don't Make Junk was created to help children understand that God does not make junk. You
Right.
may not know what you're good at today. You may not know what you're good at tomorrow. And even though certain situations have happened, you can still come out of that storm into some type of sun.
Mm. Mm.
um God has a purpose for everybody. He didn't just bring you into this world. And a lot of kids say, "I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know why I was created." If you're here, you have a purpose, whether
Right.
it's to be a scientist, whether it's to create, whether it's just to grow some flowers up and down this street,
Yeah.
to make it beautiful, because I love some beautiful yards. You have a purpose. And so with my books, all of my books have a message. For everything that I write,
Yeah.
everything creates a message. Kirby the Cow was oh well, I think you'll like this one. So this one is Church Crackers and Juice. It's about a young man named Shelby. So Shelby, he's 8 and he feels like, I'm a man. I deserve to have crackers and juice, but he hasn't been baptized. So he's like, everybody's eating it like it's a snack. Why can't I have my crackers and juice? And so, of course, his mom explains to him, the meaning behind the crackers and juice. And there's some grown folks who don't know why they're partaking in communion. They
It's
feel
good.
like, they take communion and they're gonna be saved. And
Yeah.
then they go back to the club or cursing people
Mhm.
out, whatever, they partake in. And so as she's explaining to Shelby, he's like, "So you mean I have to eat Jesus' body and
Yeah.
drink his blood? Oh, heck no. Mom, were you there with Jesus?" That's like a slapping moment right there. No, do I look old enough to be there with Jesus? Go sit down somewhere. And so And so basically it's to teach them. It's a wonderful tool, especially
So
for
cool.
children's church, because children, they look at pictures better than some
Yes.
grown person sitting there telling them, okay, so this is why you have to eat this cracker and this juice,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then it reiterates at the back, why was Shelby upset? Or,
Mm.
what is the meaning behind the cracker? What is the meaning behind, the juice that we partake for communion? So they know, it solidifies the reasoning behind everything, so they can appreciate it and not just see it as a snack.
So good. What's
Every
coming to mind, Michelle, something my husband always says, specifically around finances, but it's so
Mhm.
imperative here, is like the way that you even would share the stories biblically with your children is breaking it down to the ridiculous,
Uh-huh.
right? And the ridiculous for you is not the ridiculous in minuscule numbers, but more so in applicable understanding of
Mhm.
what does this look like in today's understanding of, right? And
Mhm.
so my husband just got passed recently the Passion translation of the Bible. Some people have different opinions about it, but
Mhm.
regardless, when you read it, especially it's New Testament only plus Proverbs and Psalms, so it's not
Mhm.
Old Testament, comes to life in a way for him that he felt like he had never read the Bible before in this
Really?
context. He was literally like, this is what that means? I had zero idea that this is what that means. And we have to remember that while we are always talking from an educator perspective to
Mhm.
littles, a lot of us are still littles. Like the Lord
Mhm.
still sees us as, oh,
Mhm.
he's an auditory learner, but he has to read every day, right?
Oh,
Oh, he's a kinetic learner. He
mhm.
should be running around. He's a kinesthetic learner. He should be moving his body, but he's
Mhm.
stuck in a desk every day. And so the way that your books are bringing it to life for children and for adults, that is so necessary. And I think
Thank
that
you.
it is something that's not just for little kids,
Mhm.
and that it could literally be a tool to break the chains of the inner child
Mhm.
that is inside of so many adults.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. Look, that's confirmation for me. Because I at one time, and I have to be brutally honest and
Yeah.
transparent. I at one time said, you know what, my books, nobody want these books because they're too real.
Mm,
Nobody wants to know the real messages. But after a while, after writing my books, like I have a new book that's coming out right before Christmas. It's
yeah.
called Gumbo is on the Menu, so they can stop getting our gumbo wrong. Because
Yes.
Louisiana people, we get mad. Y'all be wanting to add fish and tomatoes. All that does not go in gumbo. Stop.
I love it.
But, so all of my books have a teachable moment that goes with something to bring self-awareness to children, to help with self-development, to help them engage. Like for one of them is the friendship tree. The friendship tree, which is this one. The friendship tree teaches children there are three types of people that are going to come in your life. You have the leaf, the branch, and the root. The
Mm,
leaf are people who are going to come into your life as long as you have money, as long as you have cash, cars, candy. If you have a
mm.
good Twinkie, I remember I used to have them good Twinkies, and I kept a friend as long as I brought my Twinkies. But when my mom stopped getting me them Twinkies and started switching it up to them cupcakes, my friends were gone. And so they like leaves, they just blow on away.
Mm,
But then you get them branches. When you meet some branches, as long as you're doing what they want you to do, y'all
mm,
good. Y'all them
mm.
branches keep on growing, but branches break.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
when them branches break, you let them break. And my daughter asked, she said, "Well, Mom, can we duct tape them?" Now in New Orleans, we duct tape a lot of things, even ceiling fans. But you don't want to duct tape a branch. Let that branch break
Yeah.
because now you want to go to school. Now you want to better yourself. Now you want to get closer to God. And
Mm,
some people don't believe in God.
mm,
And so me and my daughter, we are working on a book called Sacrificing My Faith for high school,
wow.
because a lot of kids, she was at one time afraid to wear her t-shirts that have faith or
Sure.
blessed or God to school. She was like, "Mama, them nothing but heathens. Them
Mm,
children will make fun of me for wearing something with God." I said, "Girl, so God says be ashamed of
mm.
him. If you're ashamed of him, he's going to be ashamed of you. So I guess I ain't going to see you in heaven because
Yeah.
I know where I'm going. Where your ash is going, because guess
Oh,
what? I know where I'm going." And she's like, "But Mom, it's not like that." I said, "So you choosing them over God,
yeah.
you to make a decision."
Their opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, because the world has so much on Instagram and on
Mm,
Facebook that talks about not having religion in school. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that they did, was
for
taking out
sure.
religion, because
Yeah.
that's something that our kids need to stay prayed over.
Yeah.
And then with this one, you have the root. As long as when you meet your true roots, you may not meet them until
Mm.
high school or college. And that's people, if they have a three-legged sofa and you need it for whatever reason, you're gonna be rocking on that three-legged sofa. If you borrow $5, they're not saying, look, I need that $5 back, I gotta pay my light bill. What $5 gonna do on a light bill? You know what I mean?
Yes. So
So
good.
everything that I write is significant for our
So
young
good.
people today, because everybody is their friend.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be individual. They want to look like each other. Everybody wants to wear the same clothes, the same shoes.
So
But
good.
then when they get in that space of being suicidal,
Mhm.
nobody ever sees it.
Yeah.
And it's because it was their 13 reason why. Have you ever looked at the series 13 Reasons?
No.
Oh, wonderful series.
Okay.
13 Reasons. And so in that, it talks about these young people's high school students, and
Uh-huh.
this young lady, she killed herself, but
Mm.
nobody.
Oh, yes, I do know. Yes, I do know. That was wild. That was a wild.
Mhm,
Yes,
mhm,
and she did the letters.
mhm.
Yeah.
She did the letters and the
Yes.
recordings for them to listen
Yes.
to why each person
Mm,
had her gone to her last.
mm.
And so suicide is the second biggest thing that's taking our children
Wow.
out. Um,
Yeah.
because they're depressed and they don't know where to go. And one of the reasons they're depressed is because they've been molested, raped, or
Yeah.
touched, and they still have that. They're embarrassed
Yep.
and they don't know how to talk to their parents.
Yeah.
So, with Shush Don't Tell, I created a parent copy as well as the children's copy. The
Great.
parent copy does not have illustrations. It
Mhm.
was created so the parent can read along with the child. So that way, if the child has any questions, they can they're reading the same manuscript, but their illustrations, because the illustrations are so
Yeah.
vivid.
Yeah.
What did I do with it? So this is one of the illustrations, and I had a parent say, "Why would you put that illustration in there?"
Right.
I said, "Because I needed the child to understand what actually was happening,"
Right.
and it was this one. So this
Oh,
is the game
yep.
they were playing.
Yep.
So it was the Buffalo Ride.
Yeah. Wow.
I think it's the Buffalo Ride that they were
Yeah.
doing. But then you can also see how embarrassed she was
Mm.
because she thought it was her fault, and it
Sure.
really wasn't.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I think the imagery brings it to life in a whole
Mhm,
nother way and makes them think outside of the box to like,
mhm,
well, maybe that is okay because they said X, Y, and Z.
mhm,
But I just for me, the reality that you're bringing to the conversation is that it's not, caked over as I know this happened to you
mhm,
and it'll be okay. And here's Jesus, which yes, all of that is
mhm,
accurate and amazing and
mhm,
wonderful, but there are traumas and triggers, and there's a lot more that has to happen in the healing process, including
mhm,
that forgiveness piece that we've spoken about, that
mhm,
will come to surface in conversations like these. I love the companion guide for the parents.
mhm,
Man, Michelle, I could just keep chatting about every layer because I had zero idea that there were so many of these. I'm like, this is
mhm.
incredible. When
Thank
you
you.
think about all of these messages as you being the messenger and ultimately pointing people to Jesus, what would be like the ideal? Like if Michelle could fast forward even just like 3 years, this is what I would love for my books to do, where you want them to be, how you want them to bless.
I would. I always said I wanted to have 1 million of these
Mm,
across the world. If
yeah.
I didn't sell anything else, if
Mhm.
I can have one of
This one.
these in every household
So
for
good.
male or female, because I think this one
Mm,
is the least topic talked about.
mhm.
Um, they have the books in the libraries in the schools that talk about children choosing what their genders are going to be,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they do not have this.
Mm,
And
that's good. Oh,
um,
that's a prerequisite. that would cause the other thing to not be applicable.
Right, right. And so when
Really?
I try to go to schools and talk about this,
Yeah.
they'll tell me that, well, we have to get permission from
Yep.
parents
Yep.
to talk about this, but you don't have to have permission from parents to talk about.
Preach.
I have second graders who have already identified themselves as LGBTQ.
Mm.
I think I said all of the letters
Yeah.
LGBTQ.
It's okay. There's a bunch of other ones
Yeah,
we're not
that,
going to worry about.
yeah,
You get it.
that. But they've already second grade.
Yeah.
This is
Wow.
it's second grade.
Yeah.
And they have those books in their libraries,
Yep.
but they don't want to talk about this.
Yep.
And with that, some of that could have happened to some of those kids
Yeah.
because it started as early as 6
Yeah.
months. It starts at 2. I have people I've talked to, um, it started at 4. I
Wow.
have one young lady, her brother, when she was 9, was bringing his friends over and having his friends rotate every day.
Mm.
When she would tell her mom that it
Mm.
was happening, her mom was like, "Go sit down somewhere." You
Mm.
know, the
Yeah.
stories that I hear.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing that I know God wanted me to do is because he first wanted me to come out and say something. Bless you. See, I'm telling the truth.
Thank
And
you.
secondly, to let people know that it's time for their predators to stop living their best life,
Yeah. So good.
and to create one that would be more helpful and understandable with illustrations, because I don't think you can find one with illustrations
Right.
that give them such a diverse message to where they can understand it and come with a parent copy
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
where they can both sit as a bonding mechanism, because it's a trust building mechanism. So now you feel like you can
Mm.
talk to your parent
Yeah.
instead of bottling that in,
Yeah.
to
It's
me.
so yeah, no, I totally agree. So for those of you guys listening and thinking through your own particular messages that you want to turn into movements, I'm processing. And the ask today, you guys, is for you to get a copy. It's for you to also share said copies and to get more, to try and get it into the different school systems that you're in. And I know we have a huge group of homeschool mamas and advocates and prayer warriors inside of churches. We can get this inside of churches so easy, so much easier probably than getting it into something that sometimes feels like behind a lock and key with the educational system in the public schools.
Mhm.
So if you have if you have an ability to just get your hands first for your own home, for your own home's sake, have these narratives opened up with your children. I think some people think, Michelle, that it's like too early. Like I got to wait until they, understand this. But just like you said, 6 months old, you all. 6 months old. So it's never too early to start having conversations like this with your kiddos. With my kids being 9 and 11, there's been a lot of our friend circle is like, have you had the talk yet? And I'm
Mhm.
like, man, I've been having the talk since they were 2.
Yes.
And yes, we've had what you're referring to as the talk, which is basically just finding out where babies come from.
Mhm.
But we've been having the talk about our bodies and sexual
Mhm.
sin and all of these things for a very long time. And when I hear the traditional, birds and bees, anyone anywhere from, 8 to 13, I'm like, they already
The
know.
world has
They've
already
already been,
given it to
yeah,
us.
they've been exposed and you just don't know it. And
Mhm.
so that I think is the beauty of these books, all of them, is that they're going after core identity. They're going after truth, which is so critical. And I'm excited for more. And I do believe that we know culturally, we already came up with the consensus that it's not a cultural thing,
Mhm.
but we also know that it is a global thing. This
Mhm.
is not just American issue. This is happening sometimes to
Really big.
biblical terms in a lot of other places as well. And so I partner with you. I want to see you in other countries. I want to see this book in the hands of
Yes.
so many, and I'm excited to see how that happens. Do you have any final things you want to just speak life into those listening?
I want to speak life into you and your children. I pray
Mhm.
over your children that no weapon formed against them shall
Mhm.
prosper. I pray that, you know, the predators stop living their best life. I pray that predators stop preying on our children, period. I just pray them away. The devil has no power here. We rebuke and bind him in the name of Jesus. We we have a Father that loves us. We have a Father that heals us. We have a Father that wants the best for us. We just have to have the open mind to listen to what it is that He is telling us, that He is leading our hearts into. And I just ask that everyone that is listening to under the sound of my voice hears that we need this for our children. It's so much going on in this world, and He's in control. We are the head and not the tail. We are the above and not beneath. God is phenomenal. We thank you. We love you. We adore you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I
If
just
we
saw
can,
your book as like the shield of faith. Like
yes,
it was like a
Ephesians
weapon.
6 through
Yeah.
6 through 25.
I saw it as we were praying.
Yes.
I'm like, whoa, that's so good.
I love my God.
Yes.
And just to get this, you guys, I'm telling you, to have just one on your shelf for any family member that may come through, because I'm telling you, no age is too young. If they can learn words to a song,
Yeah.
any song, Miss Rachel, they can learn this. This is their key
Amen.
um,
Amen.
to protection.
So
Yes.
good. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the work. I thank the Lord that He wakes you up at 3 a.m., even though you're trying
I
to flip
know.
over like a pancake. I do love pancakes. Save them till breakfast and get out the bed because we need more books
Yes.
like this on our
Thank
shelves.
you
I
so
appreciate
much.
you. Be
I
blessed.
appreciate you too. Thank you guys. Good luck. Mwah.